Assalamu alaikum dear students, how are you all? Hope you all are fine and having a good time. This is Sheroz Ilyas, a teacher of computer science. Okay, so bio 3 students, the most senior students, we have discussed the contents of the P1, we have also discussed the content of the P2 in the last year, and we have almost covered each and everything except the PRM. But now, what we will do in this particular year? In this particular year, we will do some more logical things related to programming and related to algorithm, which will be the control structures, the introduction of control structures. Many of the students knows how to use the control structure, but they don't know the term. So in this year, we try to develop and enhance your skills related to the control structures. And in this control structure, we will study that how to use the sequence, how to use the selection, and how to use the iteration. I know iteration will be a little bit difficult for you because it is based on the loops. So for this, in order to understand this more clearly, I have designed a PPT. So now let's quickly move towards the PPT.
Okay, so start our lecture. In this lecture, we will study about the control structure, and which control structure we will study about and we will discuss about the selection, in which else if and if, else if and else. Before writing a program, as you all know, you have to understand the particular problem. Then you have to plan your approach, that how you will solve this problem. And you should know your building blocks, that which building blocks are available to solve that problem. You must have a good programming skills principles. The first thing, before writing a program or before switching towards the program, there are some phases which you should know. In these phases, you have pseudocode, algorithms, flowcharts, and then a program. You should know what is mean by algorithm. Algorithms are the sequence number of steps to solve the problem. You must have an idea about what actions to be executed, orders to be executed, and your approach, and which control structures, which program control structures should be used to achieve the desired result. As you know that the pseudocode is written in an artificial language, or a pseudocode is an artificial or written in formal language or natural language, that is similarly to everyday English. Remember, the code that you written in a pseudocode or an algorithm, this cannot be executed until or unless it will be written in any of the programming language. Either it can be C, it can be C++, C#, Python, etc. So these all are the paperwork. You don't need to declare a variable, you don't need to write the data types of the variables in a pseudocode, but you all have to do these things. You have to take care about the syntax if you are writing a program in any programming language. Now, control structures. In control structures, we have sequence, then we have conditions, selections, and then we have three main control structures, that is called the iteration. In sequence, you have programs executed sequentially by default. In selection, you have conditions like if else, and switch. Switch is not used nowadays. Whereas in the last and the most important control structure is the repetition or the iteration, in which you use loops like while, do while, and for. Flowchart. Then there is another phase of writing before writing a program in any programming language. There is a flowchart. What does mean by flowchart? Flowchart is a graphical representation of an algorithm. Graphical means you have to write every statement of algorithm in a particular symbol. There is a different symbol of input, there is different symbol of starting, processing, conditions, and you all have the best idea that how to convert the algorithm into the flowchart. In this lecture, we will discuss about the selection structure. In the selection structure, we have to choose amongst the alternative courses of action. For example, if a student grade is greater than or equal to 60, print passed. If the condition is true, print statement is executed or programs continues to the next statement. But if the condition is false, print statement is ignored and the program continues. Indenting makes programs easier to read. Remember, if you are writing an algorithm or you are writing a code in a proper level, it can be understood pretty much easy for the developer or for the user too. Always ignores white spaces, characters, tabs in your coding, and if you write an efficient code, use minimum lines of coding, because if you use the too much lines of coding, it will must take time to execute or it will must take time to compile. Let's take an example from the C language that, for example, if the student grade is greater than or equal to 60, print passed. There is a syntax written of this condition. We will write the keyword of if, and in the bracket we just use the variable grade, and if it is greater than equal to 60, we'll use the statement printf. Why I'm using printf? Because in C language we use printf instead of print. In flowchart, the diamond symbol is used for identifying the condition, in order to represent the conditions. It contains an expression that can be either true or false. If structure is a single entry or single exit, right? Now there is an flowchart example of that pseudocode statement. Like if we have grade greater than equals to 60, so we have, if I use this, then you can understand it more easily. If grade is greater than equals to 60, if the statement is true, passed can be printed, and if the condition is not true, it will continue to the next statement, where a decision can be made on any expression, either on true or either it false. It totally depends on you. You can also write an illogical thing like 3 minus 4 is true, right? So it's totally up to you. You can make the conditions. If we discuss this in detail, what does mean by if it performs an action if condition is true. What does mean by if or else? If you have different actions, if conditions true or false. If you have multiple actions to be done, then you used if or else, because the condition can either be true or either be false. So let's take an example. Like in pseudocode, if the student grade greater than or equals to 60, it will print pass, else fail. In C++, if grade greater than 60, count. In C++, you write count instead of print, right? So don't be confused. This is the syntax of C++ language. But if you are making a pseudocode or an algorithm, you can only write print passed, else print failed, right? Now let's talk about the nested if or else structure. Nested means one and another, means one inside and another. Test for multiple. It's used for multiple cases, like an if within an if. One condition met, other statement skipped. For example, if a student grade is greater than or equals to 90, print A. Then else, if student grade is greater than or equals to 80, print B. Then use else if student grade is greater than or equals to 70, print C. Else student grade is greater than or equals to 60, print D. Else print F. Must remember that if you are using nested if or else structure, there can be multiple else if statement inside if or else. Don't forget to write a single else at the end. This particular else print the default condition. For example, if all of these conditions becomes false, then else statement will be printed. Got it? So must remember about the syntax if you are using the nested if else structure. Now let's take an example of a pseudocode of a if or else structure. Like for example, if grade is greater than 90. This is the algorithm of the previous pseudocode. This pseudocode, there is a pseudocode. Now we will write the algorithm of this pseudocode. Something like that. If grade greater than equals to 90, print A. Why I write A in inverted commas? Because it is a text, and as you all know that if you want to print any text, it consists of a string data type, and all the string data types values are enclosed in the double quotation. That's why I write A inside the double quotation. Else if grade is greater than 80, print B. Else if grade is greater than equals to 70, print C. Else if grade is greater than equals to 60, print D. Else print F. Got it? Now, in print we have a problem if exam grade is less than 60. In print we have a problem if exam grade is less than 60 and quiz grade is less than 10. Print OK if exam grade greater than equals to 60. Now let's make a program of this. Let's make a algorithm of this particular problem. Now you should know what is the examples of the curly braces. Let's take two variables of integer data type. Then we will just write, then use the condition if exam grade is less than 60, print we have a problem. We have to write because it is given in the question that print we have a problem if exam grade is less than 60. Print we have a problem if exam grade less than 60 and quiz grade is less than 10. So we have a problem, which means we have done the first part. Now if quiz grade is less than 10, then we have a real problem, which means if both the conditions are true, then print we have a real problem, else print OK. Now what does it mean? It means that if this condition is true, this will be printed. If both of these conditions is true, then we have a real problem. And if only this condition is true, then print OK will be printed. Which means if any of these conditions becomes false, then we have OK. Then OK will be printed in the else statement. Got it? Now this is the flow chart of the given problem. The problem that we have discussed earlier. This is the problem. And now if exam grade is less than 60, if the condition is true, then we have a problem, then this statement will be printed. But if exam grade is less than 60 and quiz grade is less than 10, if both the conditions are true, then we will print we have a real problem. And if this condition is false, then OK will be printed. Got it? OK will be printed when the conditions becomes false. Okay. Now we have another type that is called the Boolean operators. In the Boolean expressions, we combine multiple Boolean expressions. For example, if a person's age is greater than or equal to 13 and less than 17, he can go to G and PG-13 rated movies, but not R rated movies. So how you can write the algorithm of this particular problem? There is an example. If age is greater than equal to 13, this is the symbol of AND, and age less than equal to 17, then it means if both these conditions are true, then you can go to G and PG-13 movies, right? You have specified the range in the curly braces. Got it? He can go to G and PG-13 movies, rated movies, but not R rated movies. Okay? So you can write print in these two statements if you want. Otherwise, there is no need to write print on multiple times. Remember, these are the Boolean operators. Boolean operators, we have three Boolean operators, that is AND, this is OR, the symbol of OR is two straight lines. The NOT statement, the symbols of NOT is the exclamation mark, and if you want to write the AND in a program, not in an algorithm. If you are writing an algorithm, you can use only AND or NOT as it is. You don't need to write any symbols. These are the symbol that is used in the coding when you want to execute a program and you want to write the code in any of the programming language. Okay. Now let's exercise it. Now let's take an example of playing cards. That number represents the rank and the suit of the cards. Let's take an example of let's take a data type of constant. That constant integer spades. Initialize a variable spades equals to 0, hearts equals to 1, diamond equals to 2, clubs equals to 3. And then we use some another variables, that ACE is equals to 1, jack is equals to 11, queen equals to 12, and king equals to 13. So these are the variables that you have initialized. You have taken the values by your own. Now just print the card name. Print rank of suit, consider just the rank part. If rank is equals to jack, print jack. Else if rank is equals to queen, print queen. If rank is equals to king, print king. If rank is equals to AC, print AC. Else print rank, which means that if all the conditions becomes false, then the value of the rank will be printed. Remember? So these are called the nested if structures. Well, now in this part we will discuss about the next control structure, that is loops. What would be the goal? What will be the goals of this lecture at the end? That you will be able to understand what is the loops concept. What is the difference between pre-test loops and the post-test loops, how you initialize the loop, and how you use the conditions, and how you use the increment in a loop. We have three loops, like we have a while loop, we have do while loop, and a for loop. Do while means your repeat until loop. Now first of all, what is a loop? A loop is a programming structure that allows an action to repeat until the program meets a given condition. Means it will do the task again and again until the conditions meets the requirement. After each iteration, means after each action, the loop checks against the control expression to see if the program meets the given condition or not. After every action, it is checked automatically that either it meets the condition or not. If it meets the condition, the loop becomes stop, and if it does not meet the condition, it will move to the next iteration. Okay. Now there are two types of loops. That the basic C programming language supports, which is the pre-test loops, and the next one is the post-test loops. Now, first of all, the pre-test. Now, what does mean by pre-test loop? Pre-test loop means with each iteration, the program tests the condition first before executing the loop. Means after each iteration, it will check by itself that either it meets the condition or not before executing the statement. If the condition results to true, the loop continues and executes the block. But if the condition results to false, the loop terminates. In this pre-test loop, if the condition is true, the loops continue. And if the condition is false, the loops execute or terminates. With the pre-test loop, there is a chance that a loop may never execute once in the program. There is a chance that a loop never executes in the pre-test loop. Whereas with the post-test loop, with each iteration, the program executes the loop blocks first and tests against the condition. In this post-test loop, it does not check by itself. It executes the loop and checks against the condition. After executing the loop, then it checks that either it meets the condition or not. If the condition tests to true, the loop continues after executing and another iteration and moves to another iteration. But if the condition is false, it terminates. With the post-test loop, there is a chance that your loop may execute at least once at a time, because in the pre-test loop, it will check the condition before the execution. But in the post-test loop, it checks the condition after executing. So in the post-test loop, your loop can execute at least once. But in the pre-test loop, there is a chance your loop may not be executed if the condition does not true. Now there is a pictorial representation in the form of a flowchart between it shows the difference between the post-test loops and the pre-test loop. In the pre-test loop, we have a condition first, which is on the left hand side, that if the condition true, then action or a series of actions will continue, the loop continue. But if the condition is false, the loop terminates. Whereas in the post-test loop, the condition executes. The action has been taken. After taking the action, it will check the condition. If the condition is true, then the loop continues. But if the condition is false, the loop terminates. So this is the basic difference between the pre-test loop and the post-test loops. Okay. Now we have a variable initialization. For example, we have an integer I equals to 5. Now I equals to 5 means integer I equals to 5. What does it mean? It means that I have initialized a variable. I have assigned a variable I whose values is 5 and whose data type is integer. Integer, what are integers? Integers are all the positive or negative whole numbers. Remember, positive or negative whole numbers. If you are taking an integer data type and if you are writing a number in points, then the error will be occurred because you are using the wrong value against the data type. Now, how can you update a loop? A loop update is what happens. What does it mean? A loop update is what happens inside a loop blocks that eventually causes the loop to satisfy the condition. Thus, an updating happens during each loop iteration. After every iteration, the loop updates. Either it will increment or either it will decrement. Must remember that there must be a definite ending of a loop. If you are using for loop, in a for loop, you must know that how long it will go, how many iterations will be done. If you are using the rest of the loops, for example, the do loop or the repeat until loop, then you must mention the condition. Otherwise, your loop will be done, will be taken in actions up to an infinite level. This will make your systems halt or hang. So you must know the definite ending of a loop. This is the difference between the initialization and updation. In the initialization, you first initialize a value at the top of the as your first step. Then you test in a pretest loop. Then you test the condition. If the condition is true, the actions or updation happen. But if the condition is false, the loop terminates. Whereas in the post-test loop, you have initialized a variable, then actions and updations will automatically be done. After doing the actions or statements or the updating, then the condition will be tested. If the condition is true, the loop continues. Either if the condition becomes false, the loop terminates. For example, we have let's take an example about the pre-test loop and the post-test loop. Let's take a variable count to 0. Let's initialize a variable of a count and the value will be 0. If the count is less than n, what is n? N will be given by the user. If the count value is less than n, then do the actions, or action will be increment count. Increment means add 1 in count until the count becomes greater than n. If the count becomes greater than n, what is n? N is the value given by the user. Whenever the count's value will be greater than n, the loop terminates, because at that point the condition becomes false. Whereas in the post-test loop, if just after assigning 0 to the count variable, it will increment first in the count, and it will do the increment till then the count value will be greater than n. Before checking the condition in the post-test loop, it will increment in the count. Whereas in the pre-test, it will check the condition, then it will took the increment in the count. Okay, so this is the basic difference between the pre-test loop and the post-test loop. Now this is the comparison between the initialization. Same has been done in the pre-test loop and the post-test loop. Number of tests means n plus 1, and in the post-test loop, number of tests will be n. It can be infinite. There is a chance of minimum iterations in a pre-test loop. Maybe your loop can never be executed once in a pre-test loop, but whereas in the post-test loop, the minimum iterations would be 1, because there is a chance of at least 1 iteration. So in pre-test loops, while loop and for loop. While loop and for loop comes under the pre-test loop, whereas in the post-test loop, there is a repeat until loop. Right? So all these loops execute so as long as the condition evaluates to true and terminate when the condition value is to false. So now in the coming online classes, we will do the examples regarding to pre-test loops and the post-test loops. Okay, till then, take care and Allah Hafiz.
Okay, now I hope that the content we have discussed in the presentation gives you a clear-cut concept that how to use the control structures in order to develop an algorithm. So I know you have too many questions to ask, so feel free to write the comment onto the GCR. The learning material related to this particular presentation will be uploaded onto the GCR soon. So feel free to comment on there and ask whatever you want to ask. Till then, this is Sheroz Ilyas. Take care. Allah Hafiz.